Millions of gardeners are adding coffee grounds to their soil every single day. And I get it. We've been told for years that it's black gold, that it's free, that it's natural. It checks every box. But here's what most gardening content doesn't tell you. There is a right way and a very wrong way to use coffee grounds. And the wrong way doesn't just waste your effort. It can actively work against your garden. I made some of these mistakes myself. That experience sent me down a rabbit hole of soil science research, and what I found genuinely changed how I garden. Today we're going deep. We're covering 5 real, documented problems with how most people use coffee grounds, the biology and chemistry behind each one, a full beginner's guide to soil amendments so you understand the bigger picture, and exactly how to fix every mistake, so you walk away using coffee grounds the right way or knowing when not to use them at all. This is going to be one of the most useful gardening videos you watch this year. Let's get into it. Section 2. The Living Soil, a beginner's primer. Before we get into coffee grounds specifically, I need you to understand something that changes everything about how you think about gardening. Your soil is alive. I'm not being poetic. A single teaspoon of healthy garden soil contains more microorganisms than there are people on Earth. Bacteria, fungi, protozoa, nematodes, earthworms, they form an entire underground ecosystem, and your job as a gardener isn't just to feed your plants. It's to feed and protect that ecosystem. This matters because almost every mistake people make with amendments, including coffee grounds, comes from thinking about soil as a passive medium that just holds your plants up. It isn't. It's a living system with its own rules. The nitrogen cycle, here's the most important cycle to understand: nitrogen. Plants need nitrogen to produce chlorophyll, the green pigment that powers photosynthesis. Without enough nitrogen, leaves turn yellow. Plants stunt, growth stalls. But here's the thing: most nitrogen in soil isn't directly available to plants. It exists in organic compounds that microbes have to break down first. This process, called nitrogen mineralization, releases ammonium that plant roots can actually absorb. When that process is healthy, your garden thrives. When it gets disrupted by the wrong amendment added the wrong way, you get problems. And coffee grounds can disrupt it in a very specific, predictable way that we'll cover in a few minutes. pH measures how acidic or alkaline your soil is, on a scale of 0 to 14. Most vegetables prefer a slightly acidic range of around 6.0 to 7.0. Blueberries, azaleas, and rhododendrons want it even more acidic, around 4. 5 to 5.5. Why does pH matter? Because it controls which nutrients are soluble and therefore available to plant roots. Even if nutrients are physically present in the soil, the wrong pH can lock them out completely. This is called nutrient lockout, and it mimics deficiency symptoms even when the soil is technically well fertilized. Coffee grounds are often marketed as a pH-lowering amendment. We'll address whether that's actually true in a few minutes, and the answer might surprise you. Section 3. Mistake 1. Allelopathy in seedlings. Let's start with the mistake that surprises people the most. Have you ever planted seeds in a bed where you recently added coffee grounds and found that almost nothing came up? You might have blamed bad seeds, bad timing, or bad luck. But there's a real biological explanation. Coffee plants didn't evolve caffeine by accident. In the wild, caffeine serves as a chemical defense. It deters insects and pathogens. But it also has what scientists call an allelopathic effect. It suppresses the germination of competing plants growing nearby. Multiple peer-reviewed studies have documented this. Research published in soil science journals has confirmed that high concentrations of coffee grounds in soil can significantly reduce germination rates across a range of plant species. The caffeine essentially signals nearby seeds, "Don't bother sprouting here." Now, a key word in that last sentence is concentration. A small amount of coffee grounds mixed thoroughly into a large volume of soil is unlikely to cause serious problems. But a thick surface application directly on a seedbed or heavy mixing into a small planting hole right before seeding, that's where the risk climbs fast. The most reliable fix is to compost your coffee grounds before adding them to beds where you plan to seed. The composting process, which involves microbial breakdown at elevated temperatures, degrades caffeine and other allelopathic compounds significantly. If you want to use raw grounds, apply them to established beds where plants are already past the seedling stage, and always mix them into the soil rather than concentrating them in one spot. A thin layer, no more than a quarter-inch, mixed with other organic material, is the safe approach. The rule of thumb: raw coffee grounds near seeds is a gamble. Composted grounds near seeds is generally safe. Section 4. Mistake 2. Nitrogen lockup. Here's a scenario that has confused a lot of gardeners. You add coffee grounds to your beds because you've been told they're high in nitrogen. A few weeks later, your plant starts showing signs of nitrogen deficiency. Pale green or yellow leaves, stunted growth. You scratch your head. You just added nitrogen. What went wrong? What you've run into is a phenomenon called nitrogen immobilization, sometimes called nitrogen lockup. And understanding it requires going back to that living soil we talked about earlier. When you add any raw organic material to soil, coffee grounds, wood chips, straw, fresh leaves, the microbial population responds immediately. They see food and they multiply rapidly to break it down. But here's the catch. Bacteria and fungi need nitrogen to build their own cell structures. And they'll get that nitrogen from wherever they can find it, including the soil's existing nitrogen supply. So in the short term, adding a lot of uncomposted organic material can actually reduce the nitrogen available to your plants, even if the material itself is nitrogen-rich. The microbes are hoarding it during the breakdown process. The nitrogen returns to the soil eventually, but that eventually might be weeks or even months, and in the meantime, your plants can suffer noticeably. Coffee grounds, with roughly 2% nitrogen by dry weight, are particularly prone to triggering this effect when applied in large quantities, because they're fine-textured and decompose quickly, producing a rapid and intense microbial bloom. Again, composting is the gold standard. In a hot compost pile, this microbial nitrogen feast happens away from your plants. By the time finished compost goes into your garden, the nitrogen has been cycled back and stabilized into plant-available forms. If you want to add raw grounds directly, do it in thin layers, no more than half an inch, and mix them thoroughly into the top several inches of soil. This spreads the microbial activity out and reduces the intensity of the nitrogen drawdown. You can also counterbalance the risk by adding a balanced fertilizer alongside raw grounds, particularly one with immediate release nitrogen, so your plants aren't left waiting while the microbes do their work. Section 5. The hydrophobic crust. This is the most visually dramatic mistake, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Coffee grounds are made up of extremely fine particles. When you spread them in a thick layer on top of soil and they dry out, something counterintuitive happens. They repel water. This is called hydrophobicity. The surface tension of water is greater than the adhesive force between water and dry coffee ground particles, so water beads up and runs off rather than soaking in. You can actually demonstrate this yourself in seconds. Take a dry pile of coffee grounds and pour water on it. Watch what happens. Now imagine that crust forming across your entire garden bed. You water your garden, and from above it looks fine. The surface is wet. But push your finger an inch down, and the soil beneath is bone dry. Your roots are gasping for moisture, while you think you're giving them plenty. It's one of the most invisible ways to stress a plant. This problem is entirely physical, not chemical. It has nothing to do with pH or nitrogen. It's purely a particle size and surface tension issue, and that means the fix is structural, not nutritional. Never apply coffee grounds as a pure layer more than a quarter-inch thick. Always blend them with coarser materials, wood chips, straw, leaf mulch, or finished compost, before applying them as a surface mulch. The coarser material creates air gaps that break surface tension and allow water to penetrate. When in doubt, mix grounds into the soil rather than leaving them on the surface. Below the surface, they can't form that water-repellent crust. A simple diagnostic test. After watering any bed where you've used coffee grounds, push your finger 2 inches into the soil. If it's dry at that depth, your mulch layer is repelling water. Break it up, thin it out, and blend it with coarser material before reapplying. Section 6, Mistake 4, the pH myth. Ask almost any gardener why they add coffee grounds, and they'll tell you to make the soil more acidic. It's one of the most widely repeated pieces of gardening advice on the internet. There's just one problem. It isn't reliable, and for most uses, it isn't even accurate. Here's what the research actually shows. Spent coffee grounds, the kind most of us are using, are close to pH neutral, typically ranging between 6.5 and 6.8. The acidic compounds in coffee are largely water-soluble and get extracted during the brewing process. What's left in the grounds is mostly fiber and organic matter, and that's nearly neutral. So if you're adding coffee grounds to your blueberry patch, hoping to drop the pH and create those ideal acidic conditions, you're probably not accomplishing much. And if you're adding large quantities hoping to acidify clay soil for rhododendrons, you're more likely to cause nitrogen lockup problems than to meaningfully move your pH. This doesn't mean coffee grounds have zero value for acid-loving plants. Mixed into compost and applied over time, they contribute organic matter that can support the soil biology these plants prefer. But as a direct pH amendment, they're simply not the right tool. What actually acidifies soil if you genuinely need to lower your soil pH, which you should confirm with a proper soil test first. The most reliable options are elemental sulfur, sulfate-based fertilizers like ammonium sulfate, or acidic organic mulches like pine needles or peat moss. Elemental sulfur is slow-acting but long-lasting. Soil bacteria convert it to sulfuric acid over several months, gradually lowering pH. For faster adjustments, ammonium sulfate works more quickly. But before you add anything to adjust pH, please get a soil test. Many local cooperative extension offices offer them for very little cost, and they'll tell you exactly where your pH sits and what, if anything, actually needs to change. Section 7. Mistake 5. Ignoring what your plants actually need. This is the most fundamental mistake of all, and it underlies every other mistake we've talked about today. We get excited about a free, natural amendment and start adding it everywhere, without asking whether our specific plants in our specific soil actually need what it provides. Coffee grounds add organic matter and a modest amount of nitrogen. That's genuinely useful in certain situations. But organic matter and nitrogen are not universally deficient in every garden. If your soil is already high in nitrogen from previous amendments, a legume cover crop or naturally rich native soil, adding more isn't helpful. It's just additional load for your soil biology to process. Best plants for coffee grounds tend to work best as a composted amendment for heavy nitrogen feeders. Tomatoes, corn, squash, roses, and leafy greens like spinach and kale all need sustained nitrogen throughout the growing season, and compost enriched with coffee grounds can support that demand well. Worms also genuinely love coffee grounds in moderation. If you run a worm bin, coffee grounds are an excellent addition. Just keep them to around 25% of total inputs by volume, as too much caffeine can irritate worms at very high concentrations. Plants to be cautious around: avoid adding raw coffee grounds near seedlings, as we've already covered. Be cautious around root vegetables like carrots and radishes. The fine particle size of grounds can contribute to soil compaction that physically impedes root development. And avoid heavy applications near plants that actively prefer alkaline conditions like lavender, asparagus, and most ornamental brassicas. The bottom line: match your amendment to your plant's actual needs. Coffee grounds aren't magic. They're one tool. And like any tool, they perform best when used for the right job. Section 8. The right way. A complete practical guide. Let's bring everything together with a simple, practical framework you can apply starting today. Step 1. Compost first. Your default should be to add coffee grounds to your compost pile rather than directly to beds. Aim for roughly 1 part coffee grounds to 4 parts other organic material. Fallen leaves, kitchen scraps, garden trimmings. This balances the nitrogen load and prevents the grounds from clumping inside the pile. Hot compost will process coffee grounds in 3 to 6 weeks. Cold composting takes longer but requires less management. Either way, finished compost delivers all the benefits of coffee grounds without any of the risks we covered today. Step 2. If you apply raw, follow these rules. Apply no more than ½ an inch at a time. Always mix into the top few inches of soil rather than leaving grounds on the surface. Never apply to seedling beds or areas about to be seeded. And if you're using them as surface mulch, always blend with coarser material first. Step 3. Worm bins are the best use. Arguably, the highest value use of coffee grounds is in a worm bin. Worms are enthusiastic about them, and vermicompost produced with coffee grounds is exceptionally nutrient-dense. Add grounds up to about 25% of total worm bin inputs, coffee filters included. Worms love those too. Step 4. Test before you amend. Before adding any amendment repeatedly, get a soil test. It costs very little and tells you exactly what your soil needs. You might find you don't need more nitrogen at all, or that a completely different amendment would do far more for your garden than coffee grounds ever could. Section 9. Here's the honest summary. Coffee grounds are a genuinely useful garden amendment. They're free, they add organic matter and nitrogen, worms love them, and when handled correctly, they're a real asset. But they're not magic, and used carelessly, they cause real diagnosable problems. The good news is that every single problem we covered today has a straightforward fix. Compost before applying. Apply thinly, mix with coarser material, match to the right plants, and test your soil so you actually know what you're working with. I want to hear how you've been using coffee grounds in your garden. Drop a comment below. Tell me your method, what's worked, and whether anything from today changes your approach. I read every comment, and real questions from real gardeners often become future videos on this channel. If this helped you, hit the like button. It genuinely helps more people find content like this. Subscribe if you want evidence-based, no-hype gardening every week. Next up, we're looking at another popular amendment that most gardeners are also using wrong. You won't want to miss it. Thanks for watching. Now go check on your garden.